What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Powered by Primus. And in today's video, I'm going to be showing off not one, not two, but three deck lists that are all around Omega Supreme. Now, Omega Supreme has been a highly requested deck list video, not just on the channel, but through Facebook and Reddit as well. So I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys the video you're asking for. Now, I'm going to be showing three different characters to run with Omega Supreme. Two are going to keep relatively the same deck. They have the same shell and definitely have some key differences in cards. But the one that I'm going to show you guys first is by far my favorite build. It is definitely a high risk, high reward build. So let's get into the video. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is Mr. Omega Supreme here. He does have 7 attack, 24 health, and 1 armor. And it says if one of your other characters would take 2 or more attack damage, instead you may have this take 2 of that damage and the rest on the other character. So let's say that if your other character is going to be taking 5 damage, you can have this character take 2 so the other character can only take 3, so on and so forth. Now, if we flip over to his other side, he does have 4 attack and 2 armor, and he is a tank, a spaceship, ranged, and a guardian. So this guy has absolutely so many things going on this side. One of our deck builds definitely does take and really push that tank list to a whole nother level. But it does say that when you flip to this mode, you get to choose one, draw a card, or deal 1 damage to an enemy. Now, the first character I'm going to be showing off with Omega Supreme is going to be Autobot Jazz. That's right, Jazz is going to be getting some love in this, and this again is a high risk, high reward deck. I'm really excited to show this off. I've been having a blast playing it. I'm going to play it at a local tournament here soon, so I'll be able to get some gameplay for you guys to really show off how good I do love this deck. Now, I will admit that there are some really bad matchups that you can have with this list, but for the most part, this is going to be really fun, really competitive to run against most things that you go up against. Now, the main thing that we're going to be running Jazz for, it does say that when this character defends against something that does not have Pierce, and you flip 2 white battle icons, the maximum damage that he can take is 2. Now, again, if you are taking an attack that does have Pierce against them, this ability will no longer trigger. Now, this list is going to be a heavy blue and heavy white list, so even if that does happen, you're going to be taking little damage just because of the blue, and then Omega Supreme can really help out. However, the really fun part about this is this combo. If your opponent does go to attack into Jazz, you do happen to proc his ability, you're only taking 2 damage, and what you can do then is revert that 2 damage over to Omega Supreme, and then Jazz will take 0 damage, meaning that you're going to be able to keep this going for a really, really long time. Now, getting into the deck list here, we're going to be showing off the actions first, and the first one we're going to be talking about is Rapid Conversion. Now, Rapid Conversion is a white battle icon, really helps out Jazz, and then also if you guys are flipping more on defense, and that's going to help you flip 2 more cards, which is going to be really nice helping proc Jazz again, and making sure that you are flipping blues if you happen to not proc. The other awesome part about Rapid Conversion is that it allows you to flip one of your characters to its other mode. We're going to primarily be using that card to flip Omega Supreme into this side to be able to get the effect of either drawing a card, dealing 1 damage, and then being able to flip him back during your flip. Now, we're never going to really be flipping Jazz. There are some moments in which you can, because you do get that extra Pierce 2, which can be nice and maybe KO that last character. So it's going to be possible to flip over, but you really want to make sure that Omega Supreme is in his bot mode pretty much at all times to make sure that the combo with Jazz is always going to be able to proc and only be doing the 2 damage to Omega Supreme. Now, one thing I didn't talk about earlier is that Omega Supreme does have 24 health. Now, if you minus 2 at a time, it would take 12 attacks from your opponent to be able to whittle this down, assuming that you're not even blocking a bunch of it off of some of the white cards, or sorry, off of some of the blue cards. So it's going to be a whole lot of fun. And then even after that, Jazz does have 10 himself, so your opponent's going to have to send another 5 attacks in, assuming they have no Pierce again. The next card for the same purpose is going to be Escape Route. It is a white and a green battle icon, white again helping out Jazz, green being able to get it after you do go to an defend. You can scrap a card from your hand to replace with this, and this does say flip one of your characters from bot mode to the other mode, again using it for the same purpose as the Rapid Conversion, to make sure that we're flipping Omega Supreme a lot, but then getting him back into the correct mode. The next card of a 3 of is going to be Vaporized. Now, Vaporized is a blue battle icon, being able to help us out on defense, but it is primarily in there because it gets to scrap an enemy upgrade. Benefit behind that is that if your opponent does happen to play something like a Matrix of Leadership or a Piercing Blaster, you're going to be able to break that with Vaporized. We're not really so worried about enemy armor in this list, and I'll show you guys why here in a minute, but this is going to be really nice to get anything that's Pierce on your opponent's side of the board out, so you guys can make sure that you're always proccing Jazz and don't have any interruptions. The next card is a 3 of is going to be Surprise Attack. Now, Surprise Attack is a white battle icon, obviously helping out for all the previous reasons, but it does give a character Pierce 3 till end of turn. Now, Omega Supreme does attack for 7, which is really nice, but we also aren't really dealing a lot of orange in this list, so we want to make sure that we're actually damaging our opponent. It's really cool if we're only taking 2 a turn, but if we're not damaging them back, then it's kind of useless. So Surprise Attack and a few other cards in this list are going to be able to give us Pierce, which is going to ensure that we slowly will kill our opponent. Now, there are ways to get pretty high Pierce damage in this deck, which we'll get to here in just a moment, to where you're maybe even hitting for 7, 8 Pierce in a turn. This is going to really help and be super nice. Next card is a 3 of is going to be Secret Dealings. Again, a white battle icon card and a green battle icon card helping us get it, but it does say that you get to draw a card and then plan 1. Now, the planning isn't really that much of a big deal, but it is really nice to get that extra draw, and then it is a white battle icon for all of those previous reasons. Our next and last action is going to be Inspiring Leadership. It is a blue battle icon card. It does say draw 3 and then scrap 2 from your hand. We sometimes are going to have some dead cards in our hand that really aren't that relevant, or maybe we don't really need at the time, especially if you have like a Secret Dealings or 2 Surprise Attacks. It's not really super good to have. So Inspiring Leadership is going to be really nice. Plus later on we're going to be able to pitch some double blue cards, which I'll show you guys here in just a moment, that are going to be really nice. But then drawing 3 is always going to help to make sure that we always have the answers that we need when we need them. I did forget the last 3 of in that list, my apologies, but it's going to be Security Checkpoint. It is a double blue battle icon card, really helping us out with that defense, and then does say each player reveals their hand and scraps all upgrades from it. Now, this is going to be a really good card to play every once in a while. We do have a good amount of actions, but we do have some upgrades that are very specific as well. But your opponent might be sitting on some good actions where this is going to be a really good play just to get all of those things out of your opponent's hands, and most likely upgrading any of those cards that do give them Pierce. There are a few actions that do it, but most of the time it's going to be an upgrade, so this is going to be really nice to throw out. Plus, again, with Inspiring Leadership, this is a good card to chuck if you absolutely need to and don't want to get rid of the other cards in your hand. So now into the upgrades, and the first one that we're going to have is Noble's Blaster. Now, this one I'm still kind of iffy about. It does give really good results, so I'm happy with it for now, but it might be changed later on in the future. It is a blue battle icon card helping us out with the defense. Green, which means that it is essentially searchable. Once we do flip it while defending or attacking, then we get to scrap a card, get it back into our hand. It does give us +2 attack, which is really nice. And then if we are going up against a Decepticon with that attack, it does give the character Pierce 2, which is always going to be really nice. Now, the next card is definitely the most important card in the list, and that is Bravery. It is a blue battle icon card and does give Brave. That means that enemies must attack that character if able. Now, obviously, we're going to be putting this onto our Jazz to make sure that our opponent is always going after Jazz. Now, the benefit with that is that with them always attacking it, you always have the most amount of chances to be able to flip those white battle icon cards, continuing that combo between him and Omega Supreme. What better way to make sure that we are triggering Jazz but with body armor? He is a melee character, and this says put on melee characters only, and he does have tough 3, meaning you get to flip 3 additional cards on defense. Now, even if you happen to flip one of those cards, being a white card, you'll be getting 2 for the initial defense, getting 3 off of these, bringing you 5, and if one of them is a white, you get to flip 2 more, bringing you to a total of 7 cards flipping on defense. You will definitely be hitting double whites. Now, I will admit, it does have the chance to whiff every once in a while, but with these on there, you have a very, very high chance, and if you do whiff, then I would just say that with like Noble's Blaster, for instance, on this, swap that out for another white card. We'll get into that here in just a moment as to what cards you guys can swap for this list specifically. The next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be Energon Axe. Now, Energon Axe is a blue battle icon card. Does give us +3 attack. It says put on damaged characters only. Now, that means if you do want to put it on Jazz for one of those turns that you can proc Omega Supreme, or the one chance that you don't proc him, you're going to be able to put this on Jazz as well. Primarily, you're going to be putting this onto Omega Supreme, but obviously if you already have one on the Supreme, then you're going to try to go for one on Jazz. So again, that's going to give Pierce 2 to that character as well. So even with Jazz, now you're doing 6 Pierce 2, or you're doing 10 Pierce 2 with Omega Supreme. Next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be Handheld Blaster. Handheld Blaster is a double blue battle icon card. It does give bold 1, definitely not going to be needed in this list. We're going to be using it just for the defense, and then again, you can chuck this out later on to Inspiring Leadership if you do happen to get it into your hand. Next upgrade coming in as a 3 of is going to be Reinforced Plating. Now, Reinforced Plating is just designed for Omega Supreme, just in case, or if early game you haven't gotten to a body armor, then you definitely are going to want to play this onto Jazz. We are running multiple upgrades as far as armor goes, because there definitely is some hate out there, and just in case your opponent happens to break one, we're going to have plenty to back it up. Having one in your hand later on additionally is still nice. Inspiring Leadership is going to be able to chuck it if you guys absolutely need it, but this is just to make sure that you are always proccing Jazz as many times as you possibly can. And the last card coming in as a 2 of is going to be Databank. Now, Databank is a white battle icon card, helping us again trigger all those things previously, but then it also says at the start of your turn, draw a card. Now, one thing to note about this is that this is a utility, and so is Bravery. Now, Bravery is obviously going to be our main target always and forever for Jazz, so this is going to be your target for Omega Supreme. Obviously, if you try to play this on Jazz as well as Bravery, you'll have to scrap the Bravery, and then your entire thing is off mark. So you always want to put this onto Omega Supreme if possible. Now, I did talk about switching out Noble's Blaster for another card, and one of those options could be Treasure Hunt. Now, Treasure Hunt is an orange battle icon card, not really helping us out on the whole defense, but it does allow us to scrap the top 4 and put any upgrades into our hand. This is primarily going to be used to making sure that we're getting our armors early game, making sure we have our Bravery early enough to be able to get that going, or even a late Energon Axe or Datapad, just to make sure that we keep the gas going and keep the damage going. But the last card that you guys can put in, you can either put in another Inspiring Leadership, or I would suggest another Databank if you're having problems hitting that white battle icon card. So the next deck, we're going to be running Warpath. Now, Warpath is a new Wave 2 character. He is also a tank as well. They're both ranged. We'll get into that later on as well. But like I said, with the tank, we're definitely going to be doing some abusing with it. In this mode, he does say that enemies can't use Tough, and he does have Pierce 2, which will be relevant for later on. He does have 4 attack, and then says that when you flip to this mode, for each card in your opponent's scrap pile that has double blues, that your opponent chooses one of their characters and does 1 damage to it. Now, these are individual triggers. So let's say that your opponent does have 3 double blues in their scrap pile. They will have to do 1 damage 3 times. So it does make a difference just in case if your opponent has 1 character with 1 health left, they can't just do all 3 damage to that 1 character. They have to do 1, which would KO it, and then 1 to another character, and then 1 again to a 3rd character. So just wanted to make sure that that was clear. So that is going to be those characters. Let's get into the deck. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about is going to be those actions. And again, I was talking about kind of breaking the fact that they were tanks. So we're going to be going with Hunker Down. Now again, this one is a heavy blue list as well, and Hunker Down is a blue battle icon card. It says flip each of your characters from bot mode to tank mode, and then for each of your tanks that isn't upgraded with an armor, you get to pull an armor from your scrap pile and put it onto the character. Now we will get into the specific target for this later on, since there is a really fancy trick with Hunker Down that we will talk about, but that is that card there. The next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be Vaporized. Now, Vaporized is a blue battle icon card. It says scrap an enemy upgrade. We're going to be using it for the same purpose as previously, except for this time we're just going to be trying to break anything that is just really annoying, any weapons that can really possibly do a bunch of damage to us. Now, we don't have any really fancy tricks in this list other than just trying to survive through a bunch of blue battle icon cards. Next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be Surprise Attack again. White battle icon, meaning we'll get to flip 2 more on defense, which is really nice, and then does give our character Pierce 3. This list again is also going to be running based on just dealing a lot of Pierce damage, and then trying to block as much damage as we can, and then getting some little bit of chip damage from Omega Supreme turn to turn. Talking about flipping Omega Supreme, the first card, again, Hunker Down, is going to be able to flip him from that bot mode, allowing you to go into your other mode, which allows you to draw 1 or deal 1. And then Escape Route is going to be used for the same purpose. White battle icon again, meaning we get to flip 2 more on defense, which is nice, and then a green battle icon, which means we can fish this thing out later on whenever we're battling. If this card gets shown, you can scrap a card from your hand and replace it with Escape Route, which again will allow us to flip from Omega Supreme's bot mode into his tank mode, use his ability, and then flip back. We're not really going to be flipping Warpath or a whole lot, so it's going to be really nice to just keep flipping Omega Supreme turn after turn. The next card coming as a 3 of is going to be Marksmanship. Now it is a blue battle icon card, and then it says if you have a ranged character, which both of our characters are going to be ranged, you get to do 2 damage to an enemy in bot mode. Now this is essentially a plasma burst dealing that 2 damage, but you have to make sure that the opponent is in bot mode. That is important, because if not, it doesn't do anything. The next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be Security Checkpoint. It is a double blue battle icon card. Really nice for helping us out on defense. I'm also going to be showing some where it's going to be helping us out on offense as well. But again, it says each player reveals their hands and scraps all upgrades from it. Now we do have some good upgrades in this list, but there are definitely some that we are wanting to actually specifically chuck out, which we'll get to here just later on, but also to really help your opponent not steamroll you with a bunch of their upgrades or weapons or whatever the case may be. This is going to be really nice to strip your opponent of all those cards. Next card coming is a 2 of is going to be Inspiring Leadership. It is a blue battle icon card, says draw 3, and then you can scrap 2 cards from your hand. Again, there are some specific cards that we're going to want to scrap here in just a second that we'll talk about, but this card's going to be really nice. Also being able to chuck some of these double blue cards that just really aren't doing a whole lot for you in your hand. This is going to be really good. Always drawing more cards and always seeing more cards from your deck is always going to be beneficial. And then finally, a 2 of and kind of a curveball is going to be Tech Research. Now, I did say specifically that there was a card that we're going to be trying to fish for, but pitching it's always going to be okay. This card specifically is going to be also pretty awesome if we do have it into our hand because Tech Research is going to be able to play it. It does have a green battle icon card, making sure that we can fish it if we ever need. However, this card is definitely a very, very dead card if you don't have the upgrade specific for it, which again is going to be really nice to be able to pitch with things such as Inspiring Leadership. Now, we've been talking a whole bunch about the upgrade that we're going to be wanting to pitch and fish for and all the other fancy stuff, so there it is. It is going to be Superior Plating. It is a blue battle icon card, and then it says that as long as you've played Tech Research this turn, you can play this card, which does give you tough 4, meaning you flip 4 additional cards on defense. This is a monster, awesome card, and if your opponent does not respond to it, it's going to really put you ahead in the game, being able to block pretty much all, if not most, of the damage that your opponent can't put out. Now, the other trick with that was Hunker Down. Hunker Down does allow you to sneak this card back into play by flipping your characters from bot mode into tank mode. You can search your scrap pile for these armors and put them onto your characters without playing the Tech Research. Now, the one thing to note about this is that if the character already does have an armor upgrade, then you can't just choose to scrap that card and then put the Superior Plating on. So you want to make sure that your characters don't have an upgrade when you do go for the Hunker Down play, unless they already have the plating and you've already played it via Tech Research or whatever the case may be. So you're flipping Omega Supreme. But again, you can't just replace an armor with another one. You have to have no armor on the character when you do go to try to pull off this little combo. The next card we have coming in as a 3 of is going to be Reinforced Plating. Now, Reinforced Plating is going to be in there just in case we haven't gotten to our Superior Plating yet or our Hunker Downs. This is going to give us tough 2 early game to make sure that we're taking as little damage as possible, especially how Warpath only has 6 health. He does have 3 armor in his robot mode, which is really nice, going to help keep him alive. But this is in there just to help keep us alive early game. And then if your opponent happens to get rid of him, that's perfectly fine because we have the Tech Research to do the Superior Plating and then the Hunker Down as well. The next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be that Handheld Blaster. It is a double blue battle icon card. The bold one we're not going to be using, but we're going to be using the double blue just because it's going to be really nice to help us out on the defense. And then again, we can pitch to things such as Inspiring Leadership if we need it. Now, the next card that's going to be a 3 of is also one of the key cards in the deck, and that is Thermal Weaponry. It is an orange battle icon card, so not great for defense. It does give us +1 attack, but it does say that when the upgraded character attacks, for each blue battle icon you flip, that character gets Pierce 1. Now, this is definitely going to be super important because this card is going to be dealing a lot of damage to your opponent. Now, if you do happen to put this onto Omega Supreme, then you're looking at an 8 base attack, and then however much you flip, let's say you flip 4 blues because you got a white or 5 blues, then you're looking at, Pierce 5. And then if you go with things such as the Surprise Attack, now you're looking at 8 Pierce 8. So you're going to be dealing tons and tons of damage with this card. It's also really nice to put on Warpath because if you put him in his other mode that has 4 attack, now he'll have a 5 base. And then when you go to attack, flipping all those blues, just going to be ensuring that you're dealing those Pierce damage to your opponent every single turn. The next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be Security Console. Now, this card is absolutely amazing. Pretty much in all of my heavy blue decks, I'm going to try to be running at least 2 of these cards. It is a white battle icon, allowing us to flip 2 more on defense. But the really good part about it, it says that when the upgraded character defends, so when your opponent attacks, you get to draw 1 and then plan 1. Now, the awesome part is being able to draw 1 on your opponent's turn is always fantastic, and then you don't even have to put a card back on top of your deck. The planning is always optional, but you can always put a double blue on top of your deck if you want to make sure that you are defending for those 2 extra. Or if you know you're already going to be okay on the defense, then maybe you can put a white battle icon card on top of your deck, so then you flip 2 more additional cards when it comes to defending. However the situation is, this card is always going to be really, really awesome. And then finally, our last 3 of is going to be Noble's Blaster again. It is a blue battle icon card and a green battle icon card, meaning we get to fish it after battle. It is a weapon, does give us +2 attack, which is always really nice. And then if you are going up into the Decepticon, it does get Pierce 2. Now again, in this list, this card is kind of iffy. I know that in my area there's definitely a lot of Decepticons that run around, so this card always seems to give me the Pierce 2 and the +2 attack, which is really, really nice. The only card that I would consider switching this out for possibly is for that Treasure Hunt. The one disadvantage to the Treasure Hunt here that I'm not a huge fan of is that it does put those superior platings into your hand possibly. And it's not that it's an issue to get it into your hand because we do have the tech research, but you really want to be getting it for free from the Hunker Down. But it is always a really good card to have. It does help get your thermal weaponries, your security consoles, and a lot of the other cards as well. So if this isn't really working out for you, Treasure Hunt is definitely the route that I would go. And then our third and final deck is going to be running Acid Storm. Now, primarily the differences between this list and the Warpath list, first off, is just going to be the characters. Now, it might depend a little bit on your meta. If you are having tons of people who are running Bold, then Acid Storm is going to be your go-to all day long, saying how your enemies can't use Bold. Now on the other side, it says that when you flip to this mode for each double orange in your opponent's scrapyard, you get to repair 1 damage from this, which is going to be really, really nice. If this character happens to take some damage, going up as a heavy orange list, then this card is going to really benefit. But again, there are some key differences to the deck, but like I said again, Warpath does go for that tough plan and is definitely for more of that tank sneaking some armor into play, where Acid Storm and Supreme are going to do a little more direct damage stuff, so let's get into that deck. Now starting off with actions, we're going to be showing off 3 of the escape route. White battle icon flipping, you get to flip 2 more on defense. Again, this is going to be a heavier blue list, and then that green to be able to fish it out. The difference with this one is that if your opponent is indeed fact running that heavy orange list escape route, you're also going to be able to flip Acid Storm as well, really being able to repair him if he does take some early damage. The next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be Marksman again. It is a blue battle icon, which is really nice, and it says if you control a ranged character, which we do have both, it does say you get to do 2 damage to that character, again, only in bot mode. The next one of the 3 of is going to be Security Checkpoint for that double blue battle icon, and then you get to scrap any and all upgrades from your and your opponent's hands with that, being able to make sure that you get anything pesky out of your opponent's hands, and then if you happen to have a bunch of actions, then it's just a free card for you. The next card and one of the differences is going to be Leap into Battle. Now the one thing about Acid Storm is that Pierce is definitely an option you can go with, but he doesn't really do a whole lot of damage, whereas Warpath, there's a kind of couple ways we can get it up there. But with Leap into Battle, because we're doing direct damage with this list, I feel like this is just a better card, being able to put your Omega Supreme while in bot mode up to 10 attack, and then being able to put Acid Storm into that 5 and 6 damage range is going to be a really nice card. Next one as a 3 of is going to be Vaporized. Again, scrapping any enemy upgrades such as armor that's getting in your way or weapons that are really starting to whittle you down. Those are going to be your primary targets for Vaporize. The next one, and now a 3 of, is going to be Inspiring Leadership, helping us just draw as many cards as we can, seeing as how we're not running so many tricks in this deck. So you get to be able to draw 3 and then scrap 2 if you need it. A couple of these double blue battle icon cards are going to be really good to scrap late game. And finally, the last action coming in as a 3 of is going to be Treasure Hunt. Now, Treasure Hunt's going to be really good in this list. We definitely have some very specific upgrades that we want to go for. This is just going to help us find those a little bit better. Being an orange battle icon is going to be really nice because we are playing to a little more damage on the attack side of things, so that's going to really help refill our hand and go for those very specific cards. Now getting into the upgrades, the first off and a 1 of is going to be Force Field. Now it is a white battle icon card, again helping us flip 2 more on defense, which is nice. And then if the upgraded character would take 5 or more, you get to break the Force Field and then only take 4 damage. Now this is primarily in here because it is a white, but it is also an armor. Some of the armors that we have in here are just 1-turn armors. Get to that here in just a second, but this is going to be really nice to have, whether it's early game or late game and you're running out of armor. It's just going to be a really good 1 of. The next one coming in as a 3 of is going to be Reinforced Plating. It's a blue battle icon and then does give us Tough 2, which allows us to flip 2 more cards when it comes to defense. The last armor that we have that's going to be a 3 of is going to be Evasive Maneuvers. Now this is a blue battle icon card and does give us Tough 3, meaning we flip 3 more on defense, but at the end of the defense then you have to scrap this card. That was my point when I was talking about the 1-turn defenses. If you're not getting to these, the treasure hunts are going to really help get to the rest of these other cards, but even if you get these early game, late game, whatever point in the game, these are going to be really nice to give us Tough 3 for the turn, and then again you can use that Force Field to put on the character the next turn, or even if you go with the Reformed Plating, if you do happen to get it, that's going to give you that Tough 2 continuously. This is just a really good card. The next one coming in as a 3 of is going to be the same thing, that Thermal Weaponry. Now again, this is a really heavy blue list. This card is always really, really good. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of this card. It runs really well in all of these, in the last 2 lists. with Acid Storm and Warpath, just because of how much pierce damage it does put out. And it does give us that +1 attack. And then for each blue we flip on defense, it does give Pierce 1, meaning that we're always going to be dealing damage to our opponents. It's really nice to help whittle them down. The next one being a 3 of again is going to be that Handheld Blaster. The double blue battle icon card helping us get that more pierce. We're never going to be using it for the bold side of things. And then also we have another card we'll be showing off here in just a second. It's going to be really nice for stacking on top of your deck, or again pitching to that Inspiring Leadership if you need to. Coming in with the next 3 of is going to be that Security Console. White battle icon card, and again it says when the upgraded character defends, then you get to draw one and then plan one. Again, putting those double blues on top if you need to get the armor, or if you want to put a white on top to make sure that you guys are just flipping into more cards. Either way, it's going to be really nice. It's also optional to plan. You don't absolutely have to. And then the third and final 3 of is going to be Armed Hovercraft. Now it is a blue battle icon, again helping us out on the defense. And it says when you put this on a ranged character, both of our characters again being that, you get to do 1 damage to each enemy, and then it does give you +1 attack. Now you're always going to want to be going for that thermal weaponry. However, if you happen to get this early, or even if you want to play it the turn before, the 1's going to be really nice to have. Dealing the 1 damage is the main reason, and then you just play the thermal weaponry and replace the Armed Hovercraft. Well, there you guys go. There are 3 different deck lists to run with Omega Supreme, and they really come down to your different playstyles. Again, if you're really wanting to tank down and go through all of that defense while slowly picking at your opponent, or you can go with the more direct damage stuff from Acid Storm, or if you want to go with that high risk, high reward combo with Jazz. Let me know if you guys have any suggestions for these deck lists, or if you guys run anything different. I'd love to hear about it. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys in the next one.